I used to think that when bad things happen that it was just random chaos. That bad things happen because you bring them on yourself.
Detective Harper! Is it true you knew her?
Netflix just drops a show about a normal night, a casual drive, some car fun inside a forest. A moment that feels harmless fun. But then you wake up the next morning and find out the woman from the previous night you were with was stabbed 40 times, with plenty of semen found. How do you know? Because you are the lead detective on this small-town murder case, so suddenly the question isn't what happened. It's how screwed am I, and who's about to decide the truth for me? That's the show. Not a whodunit. A slow, suffocating panic about perspective, guilt, and how fast an ordinary life can turn into a crime scene. In this video, I'm not breaking down who killed whom in his and hers. I'm breaking down how grief turns into moral permission, how love quietly mutates into lying, how trauma fractures perspective, and why every character in this story believes they're justified even when they're destroying lives. We're going to talk about survivor guilt, avoidant attachment, revenge psychology, and the terrifying idea that justice doesn't collapse relationships, secrecy does. A baby dies without a reason. That alone is enough to fracture a marriage beyond repair. Psychologically, this is where blame begins hunting for a home. When grief has no cause, the brain invents one. Anna disappears from her life, not to heal, but to avoid collapsing under survivor guilt. Jack stays, but he doesn't process anything either. He displaces pain into secrecy, affairs, and control. This is classic grief avoidance. If you keep moving, you don't have to feel. Then the murders begin. And what makes them disturbing is not the violence itself, but proximity. Everyone knew each other. Everyone shared history. The past is not buried, it's standing right there in the room. Each death pulls old resentments, humiliations, and power imbalances back to the surface. As the investigation unfolds, truth starts bending. Jack compromises the case. Anna weaponizes information on live television. Careers, reputations, and relationships are quietly sacrificed to protect fragile identities. This is where the show becomes psychologically cruel. Trauma doesn't just damage people, it gives them moral excuses. And the deeper the pain, the easier it becomes to justify crossing lines you once swore you never would. But this is where the show pulls the rug out from under you. Because just when you think you figured it out, just when the pieces seem to line up, you realize the person you're convinced is the killer isn't. I genuinely thought I had it. I kept mentally circling back to the same faces, the same motives, the same "this has to be it" logic. And I was wrong. Completely wrong. What messed with me is that the show wants you to be wrong. It feeds your bias, your need for clean answers, your instinct to blame the most obvious source of damage. Psychologically, we hate uncertainty. We'd rather accuse the wrong person than sit in not knowing. And the series exploits that discomfort perfectly. By the time the truth starts inching closer, I wasn't even playing detective anymore. I was second-guessing my own judgment. Every new clue didn't clarify things, it destabilized them. It made me realize how easily perspective can be manipulated, how fast sympathy turns into suspicion, and how confidently we mistake familiarity for truth. And that's when it hit me. The danger in the story isn't just the killer, it's how convincingly the show teaches you to trust the wrong narrative until the very last moment. And just when you think the conflict is about to resolve, the show does something far more unsettling. It doesn't answer the question, it changes it. At this point, I stopped asking, who did it? And started asking, why does this feel justified? That's the second rise. And it's more disturbing than the murders themselves, because the closer we get to the truth, the more the story forces you to sit with something uncomfortable. Every version of events makes sense depending on who's telling it. This is where the conflict deepens psychologically. Grief stops being background noise and becomes the engine. Loyalty turns into protection at any cost. Love turns into selective blindness. Characters aren't choosing between right and wrong anymore. They're choosing between survival and collapse. And survival always wins. What really escalated it for me is realizing that the show isn't hiding the truth. It's hiding intent. The violence isn't random. The manipulation isn't chaos. It's purposeful, almost surgical. And once that clicks, the tension spikes because now you're not watching people make mistakes. You're watching someone guide the story toward an outcome they believe is fair. That's the conflict. Not murder versus justice, but justice versus truth. And by now, you can feel those two things drifting dangerously far apart. But wait. Stay with me till the end because my take on this landed somewhere genuinely bizarre, and I don't think the show even realizes what it accidentally confessed. So first, the shock. The detective isn't the killer. The husband isn't the killer. The wife isn't the killer. The real murderer is Alice, Anna's mother, and when that reveal lands, it doesn't feel like a cheap twist. It feels cold, intentional, almost calm. Alice didn't snap. She calculated. She staged dementia, erased herself from suspicion, and executed the murders as a form of moral accounting. In her mind, this wasn't violence. This was correction. Every kill was symbolic. Every act was a message. She believed the world had failed her daughter, so she became the system that finally listened. Here's my strange take. I don't think this show is actually about justice or revenge. I think it's about what happens when trauma never gets officially named. No police report, no courtroom, no public acknowledgement, just silence. And silence doesn't heal, it mutates. Which brings me to the questions I couldn't shake. Why was there never a police complaint about what happened to those girls in the forest? That wasn't a misunderstanding, that was lifelong trauma. And Anna still went on to marry into that family, her abuser's sister's brother. Think about that for a second. That's not forgiveness, that's survival dressed up as normalcy. And then the baby. We're told how she died medically, but emotionally, I still don't know. Was it an accident? Neglect? Guilt eating itself alive? The show never answers that, and maybe that's the point. Some losses never get closure. They just get buried under new lies. And maybe that's the darkest truth here. Not that Alice killed for love, but that everyone else learned to live with damage that was never properly named. And that's why his and hers deserves the love it's getting. It trusts the audience to sit with discomfort instead of resolving it for us. If you've watched the show, I genuinely want to know what stuck with you. What did you forgive? What did you judge? And what question are you still carrying after the credits rolled? Drop your thoughts in the comments, let's talk about it.